Hello everyone, welcome back to Vintage Girl. In this video, I'm going to be sharing some interesting things about Sweden, as well as a few things I found at secondhand shops. So let's go. I was thinking that there's a lot of interesting things in Sweden that I haven't seen in other countries, so I thought that I would tell you guys about them. In Sweden, most people have cars, but they don't use them. Instead, they use bicycles, trains, or buses, or walk. Not to mention, I don't think I've ever walked this much in my entire life than in Sweden. The only downfall about everybody taking buses and bicycles to work is that you're trying not to get hit by one. I don't think I can count how many times I've almost gotten hit by a bicycle here. This makes crossing the street very difficult because first you have to cross one bike lane, then 1 to 2 car lanes, and then another bicycle lane after that. Something else that I noticed about Swedish public transportation is how nobody talks to you, unless you happen to be a talkative elderly man or woman. On one of my first trips on Swedish public transportation, I had a bag of chips and I was so scared to open it because I didn't want to be loud on the train. Because it is so quiet most of the time, you can hear a pin drop. Something else that I noticed on Swedish trains and buses is that anytime you're struggling with your suitcase, people won't even ask if they can help you. They just start lifting your suitcase, which is so kind. They have done this so many times for me when I'm carrying 2 suitcases onto a train. And people keep thinking that I am a local and asking me for directions because, I do look Scandinavian because I am, but I'm not from here, therefore I know nothing about the trains. So I'm not very helpful. You definitely know that someone's a local around here if they're hauling furniture or their groceries on the bus. Speaking of groceries, grocery stores here don't have bags. Therefore, you have to bring your own. And if you forget your bag, you will end up carrying your groceries home in your pockets, your purse, and in your arms. So don't forget your bag. Also, the first time I went to the grocery store by myself and tried to buy cheese, I was staring at the cheese aisle for 10 minutes because I don't speak Swedish and didn't know what any of it meant. When you go to restaurants here, it seems like things are overpriced, but in reality, the tip is already included in the price. If you buy eggs from a grocery store here, you will notice that they're not refrigerated. This is because you only need to refrigerate eggs if you wash them. Therefore, you only wash the egg when you are about to use it at your house. Sweet Saturday is a very popular thing in Sweden, where on Saturday, all of the candy is on sale. Therefore, all of the kids and adults run to the candy store. Not to mention, a lot of their candy tastes a lot more natural than the US, which I am a big fan of. Something else that's quite famous here is fika. If you don't know what fika is where you drink coffee, a sweet treat, and hang out with your friend at the same time. Yet another thing that is famous in Sweden is Midsummer, which is celebrated on June 20th, and if you don't know about Midsummer, on this occasion some people wear their Scandinavian costumes, white dresses, floral dresses, that kind of thing. They have a maypole setup that is covered in greenery and Swedish flags. At these events, they have traditional Swedish folk dancing, live music, as well as group dances where you parade in a circle and the person with the microphone on the stage tells you what to do. And there's a lot of different dances that you all do in a circle, such as the frog dance. Some of these dances seem kind of childish, but let me tell you what, not just the children are in there. Everybody is doing these dances. I also wanted to show you guys a few foods and drinks that I thought were interesting. If you buy coffee at a grocery store, you will notice that it's in a packed square, which I have never seen before in the United States. It's not very packed now since we've been using it, but it was. You can kind of see at the bottom here how it's kind of square shaped. Very interesting. They also have really good tea here, and my favorite one is called Puka, and the flavor is elderberry and echinacea. It smells so good and tastes really good. So yeah, this is my favorite Swedish tea. I've also really been liking these cheese doodles, but I like to call them Swedish Cheetos. Trash cans are a little bit difficult to figure out here since they have different cans for different purposes, such as food waste, paper, plastic, glass. They all have their own bins. Something that I noticed about Swedish bathrooms is that there are no walls around the shower. The only thing that they do have is a shower drain on the floor and a faucet. The last thing that I think is interesting about Sweden are the beds, but more so how they make their beds. I'll put a picture of how they make the beds here, but basically the comforter is folded in half like a taco. Since they have unusually good thrift shops here, I thought that I would show you guys a few things that I found. I found this little Asian looking antique mug, and the reason I thought this was so interesting was because first of all, you can put your tea leaves in the cup itself. Secondly, you can keep your tea warm. The next thing I want to show you guys is this little tea set. I thought that these would be good cups and plates to use for my YouTube videos to make it look a little bit more fancy. And they look like they have a British countryside painted on them. I got this dress from a second-hand shop, and I'm pretty sure it was $13. But the funny thing is that if I had gotten this dress from the actual brand it was from, it would have been $200. Then I found this one from a different antique shop than the other one, and it was similarly priced. But I got this one because it reminds me of a Regency style dress with the sleeves. The last thing I'm going to show you guys is this 40s style dress. I don't actually know when it was made, but it looks like the 40s to me. Since it was missing a few buttons, I had to sew them on myself. We have reached the end of today's video. See you next time.